Welcome to the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show, and I'm your host, Richard Wray. My mission is to help entrepreneurs understand AI and use it to their advantage. Join me today where we dig deep with our guests and get you the best concepts and strategies. Today's special guest is MG. M describes herself as an ADHD entrepreneur with wild ideas about what's possible. She started her career as a marketer, then got bored and changed to teaching, then got bored and had kids, then started her own business. Now she is a best-selling author, podcaster, marketing coach, and currently obsessed with AI and how it is changing the world. Today, we're talking about shaking up the coaching industry with AI. Em, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Richard.
Great to have you here. Now, Em, I always like to ask my guests, where in the world are you?
I am in Perth, Western Australia.
Very nice part of the world.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's get straight into it. Full disclosure as well, as I like to say when I do this show, I have ADHD, and you referenced that when we've had the introduction as well.
Mhm.
So, we will probably talk about that as we go through the session today. But tell us about your journey towards a point in your life where you've got such an eclectic mix of work and life experiences.
I would say that the ADHD probably has a lot to do with that
Yep.
because I've only just recently been diagnosed, but I have always been the kind of person that gets bored and finds shiny object syndrome and then needs to find something new to learn in order to tame the boredom. And so
Hmm.
that's then led me down the path of becoming a business owner because once upon a time I was also a teacher, primary school
Hmm.
teacher, and really someone with ADHD doesn't fit very well into the Department of Education, like government worker. Not very good
Hmm.
at following rules. I
Yep.
basically consider myself unemployable because I don't like to do what other people tell me to do. But I love that now this journey's taken me down a path of being able to choose what I do with my life and also impact others in the process, which is super cool. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, some classic traits there. And one of the traits that ADHD tends to have is hyper focus. You get into
Mhm.
something and you really get into it. Is that something you've experienced as well?
All the time, and it's a superpower. It's a superpower and to the
It
point that
really
you
is.
realize that you haven't picked your kids up from school, and because you've been hyper focused, and then you race down the stairs and fall down the stairs and break your foot, which happened, to
Oh
me in
no.
December. But, at the end of the day, I know that I wouldn't have got done what I have gotten done in my life and in my business without
Mhm.
having that hyper focus.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things. If anybody out there is listening and they're wondering why they change things, why they could be great one second and not so great the next, this is certainly a possibility that they may have ADHD, but they need to get diagnosed professionally. The internet is not the way to do it.
No, no, you definitely need to actually follow the process. And, there is misdiagnosis out there, but I think it's just helpful to understand more about how you operate as a human. And if you're an entrepreneur, then you need to understand how you operate. And if ADHD is a part of that, it's helpful to understand.
And there are some very famous entrepreneurs with ADHD,
Mhm.
Richard Branson being a great example.
Yes. Look, I would say a lot of people that have ADHD end up in business for the exact reasons that I'd said, because you can't fit into the same box as everyone else. And you've got to find a way to utilize your gifts in a different
Mhm.
way.
Absolutely. Okay,
Mm.
let's move on from that now. So tell me, when did you start to get interested in AI?
To be honest, I didn't even know what AI was 12 months ago. So
Mhm.
I would have called myself a technophobe,
Mhm.
someone that really only learned the technology behind business because I had to, like it was the one thing that I knew I needed to do in order to get ahead in an online business, which I have. So I learned it by default, which was really hard to do because, as you know, with ADHD, if you're not interested in something, it's very hard to make yourself do it. But when I started to explore ChatGPT, which was when I first started to understand what AI is, I know we've actually had artificial intelligence around for a long time
Mhm.
before that. But when I saw that, I thought, first of all, actually, I thought this is scary. And I know a lot of people have that thought. A lot of people in my world initially think it's scary.
Mhm.
And then I reminded myself that it's really important to look at what you think is scary and understand where that's coming from, and also become a part of it so that you can not be afraid of it anymore. And that to me was when I got really excited about it. So it was probably
Mhm.
only at the end of last year, end of 2022, that I really started to get interested. But as you know, when you've got hyper focus and you get interested in something, you can learn 10,000 hours worth of stuff in a row without sleeping.
Absolutely. You mentioned something really interesting there, and it's not just about AI, it's not just about work. Something that's scary, and it sounded like you actually looked within yourself first
Mhm.
before looking at why is that thing scary. Can you comment on that a bit more?
Yes. So I have quite a big background of working on my own mental health. I was
Mhm,
diagnosed with anxiety when I was 5. Turns out it probably was ADHD.
mhm,
But I've spent all of my life looking inwards to find answers because I believe that our answers are actually within us.
mhm,
And so when something seems scary or there's fear, I like to actually shine a light on that because I often find some of the greatest lessons come from fear. And so I have different processes that I go through for that, but that's what I've done with AI. And I've also been, talking to my own clients about this and
mhm,
saying, if they're going, oh, that seems scary, or what will that mean for the world? Or I don't know how to use that because I'm quote unquote too old for this kind of technology. Then it's a matter of going, okay, well, where's that actually coming from and how can we embrace
mhm.
it?
That's a really great way to look at things, and it doesn't just apply to business, it can apply to literally everything in your life.
Mm, yes.
So tell us about the coaching side of your business and how you think AI can actually shake up that industry.
So I am a marketing and mindset coach for women in business. And
Mhm,
I have found that in the coaching industry, there's a huge focus on scaling. There's a massive focus on scaling. Get out of your one to one coaching and into your group coaching and memberships,
mhm,
which I have done myself. I have
yeah,
scaled to group coaching a few years ago now, to memberships as well. But what I've found is that the quality and the results is watered down and reduced
okay,
once you get less than one to one. And it makes sense because you don't have that one to one interaction. And the reason you don't have that is because it costs more money. The time it takes
mhm,
for you to be one to one with someone is obviously going to cost more money.
yeah,
But if you introduce AI and the way that it can save us time, but also replicate a natural language model and think about what's possible around those low level coaching questions if you've got a big enough data set. I started to wonder, is it possible that you could create something that could essentially coach at the lower level based on resources that are already created by a coach
mhm,
to make coaching more accessible? I see coaching as a very privileged option for people to pay for now.
mhm,
I'm a woman of privilege. I have got enough money to pay thousands of dollars for coaching if I need
yeah,
it. But most people don't. And yet there are, I don't know how many people, but there are thousands upon thousands of ideas that are potentially dying with the lower middle class or the lower class.
mhm,
And so I'm starting to wonder, how can AI fill that gap? How can we use it in a really positive way
mhm.
to help people that can't access that high level of coaching? And how could I be the person to maybe bring that to life because of all of the knowledge in the community that I have with me?
So part of what I'm hearing there is kind of the almost the antidote to people going, "Oh no, AI is going to take my job." In actual
Mm,
fact, it sounds to me that you're looking at AI in a way that it can give people who would never have access to these sorts of services in any sort of realistic way a level of access, and then maybe they can allocate budget to it when they see that
mhm.
they can validate that, hey, this is something that's worth investing in, or maybe the AI version of it is enough to get them where they need to be.
Yes, 100%. That is exactly right. And the women that have already taken part in this have kind of got a phase one rollout.
Mhm,
There's a huge variety. There's startups all the way to seven-figure business owners
mhm,
because they can see the value that this adds. And for those that are already earning a decent amount of money, it's complementary to the other things that they do.
mhm.
It's not the be all and end all, but it complements it because it's such a low price point that they can start to, connect with other people. There's community there and there's resources in areas that aren't their expertise.
And what tools are you using?
What tools am I using? Well,
Mm,
I'm using the tool of a very intelligent woman called Dr. Nikki Sweeney, who is a data scientist.
mhm.
She's helping me to create a chatbot and also an
Okay.
adaptive learning website that will go on the back end of the
Mhm,
membership. At the moment, because we're rolling it out, we're still playing around with a couple of platforms. Platforms are changing all the time, and we want to make sure that we're kind of ahead of the game. So there is an incredible platform in Western Australia, female founded as well, called Techmatics. I don't know if you've heard of it, but Sarah, who owns Techmatics, she's only had the organization and platform open for, I think, since December. So around the
mhm.
same time I heard about AI for the first time,
Yeah.
and it's an incredible platform that integrates a lot of things that will allow us to do what we want to do with the chatbot, with the adaptive learning, with
Mhm,
the membership site, and with the community, all on that one place. And yeah, Dr. Nikki knows more about where the bot is hosted. She's got a white label bot that we're using,
mhm.
and then from there we'll be using technology that she will find, because again, like, I understand the overall thing but not the specifics, that she will find that will help to give a more personalized experience to members, so that when they log in, the bot remembers who they are,
Yeah.
what they were working on, what their business is, and so it becomes a very personalized experience.
So very realistically, you're using your skills basically front of house, and
Mhm.
your understanding of the world of coaching, but then you're also using people who have got that really in-depth knowledge on the back of house type stuff, and
Mhm.
mixing those skills together.
Absolutely. I'm the visionary. I've got the idea and I'm
Mhm.
learning a lot. I had a chat with Nikki last week and she's talking about JSS and CSS and
Mhm.
HTML. And I'm like, I never knew
Yeah.
what these things were before. And now I'm starting to learn. But at the same time, I don't need to learn the little specifics. I just want the vision. And I'm like, is this
Mhm.
possible? And so much is possible with AI. I don't need to know how. I'm like, someone else can do that. I just know that there's so much possible and I want to tap into that.
So are you finding that AI is enabling ideas that just a few years ago wouldn't have been possible?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, I think about what is possible now, and even I remember a few years ago, I was struggling to find a application that did subtitles really effectively
Mhm.
for videos.
Yeah.
And now everything does it. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking, 2 years ago, how is there nothing that does this yet? Like, surely there's got to be an application that does this better by now. And now it's everywhere. Like, that's the most basic
Yeah.
part of video editing. But now, just looking at what's possible and changing every day, I think that we really need to get ahead of it and use it in positive ways to reach more people.
What do you see as the possible pitfalls of people embracing AI?
Oh, that's a good question. I think there are always going to be people that use it for, let's say, not so positive outcomes.
Mhm.
And that's exactly why I want to be ahead of the movement of it, so that I
Yeah.
can show people how to use it in a positive way. I think that because it's moving so fast, if you're not getting amongst it now, it could be very quick to get behind. So that's a
Yeah.
pitfall, is constantly having to learn and update your learning. And I think that is also, there's positives to that though, right? You can tell that I'm like the queen of positive thinking. It's like, if you are ahead, people are going to need what you know. So there's like
Yes.
an opportunity there as well. And I guess because there's maybe not enough, what's the right word? There's not enough rules around it yet. That's not the right word, but the way that it's being rolled out, we don't know the impact because we're just seeing the
Mhm.
impact. And it might take some time to kind of know what that is and be able to level it out. I remember when ManyChat first came out with their bot, responding to messenger messages, and it was like a free for all, and no one wanted to open their messages anymore because their bot was just like constantly hammering people, and they had to then peel it back and bring in some regulations around it.
So we are very much an early stage, and sometimes things are going
Mm.
a little bit too far. Sometimes things aren't going far enough, and we're
Mhm.
still not at the point where we've got the balance right. Is what I'm hearing there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so have you seen much resistance from people, either in your field within coaching or
Mhm.
clients, potential clients with regards to AI?
Yes, a lot of resistance. I think I work with women, and generally speaking, and this is a total, looking at the entire population, it's not
Mhm.
everyone, but a lot of women hold themselves back. It's been seen as a male dominated industry, and really it is. If you look at the stats, it is. And
Yeah.
so this is why I'm trying to work with as many women as possible,
Mhm.
because it doesn't need to be a male dominated industry.
Of
And
course.
there is so much, because it's so early, there's so much we can adopt and learn now.
That's really interesting. So part of your message is to really enable people, in fact, specifically women,
Mm,
use this.
yeah.
Grab AI and do what you can with it because it is a great enabler in so many ways.
Yes, and it can save us so much time,
Mm.
and that is something that, particularly as women, we wear so many hats. And it's not just in business, but in life, in everything.
Mhm.
How can you use it to literally save yourself hours a week that you could then spend on, looking after yourself and do better at that, or working on your business.
So, what sort of messaging or what sort of approach do you take when you run into somebody who is, holding themselves back, be it other women or anybody else for that matter?
I ask them, how often do you use Google?
Hmm.
And how often do you use your Google Maps, like
Hmm.
GPS? Do you have Netflix? Everyone uses Google, everyone uses Google Maps, everyone uses Netflix, and all of those platforms are using AI. We just haven't really made that connection yet. And
So, there's a lot of marketing has gone into, or a lot of zeitgeist with ChatGPT, and suddenly everybody's aware of it. And all of a sudden, people know the letters AI. But as you rightly said, they've been using it for years and don't even realize.
exactly. And, it's actually a good thing now. And I say this as a reframe to people, that you can see behind the scenes what's happening, because this has
Mhm.
always been happening, but now you get access to it. Never before has the public had so much access to this level of AI. And
Mhm.
so we now have the opportunity to see that exposure as an opportunity, as opposed to it just being the people that are manipulating our minds with all the apps
Mhm.
that have access to this. Now we all understand it better.
So, do you have any examples where you've either worked with somebody or you've seen somebody and they've used AI and your coaching skills and it's really changed their life? It's really changed their business or turned things around?
Yeah. So, for example, I've got a client who recently launched a podcast, and she also runs a marketing agency. So, she's got a lot of things going on. The podcast wasn't for the marketing agency, it was for her
Mhm.
own personal brand. So, trying to get organized for that was quite a challenge. She's constantly looking after other people's brands and wasn't looking after her own. So,
Mhm.
we implemented a process for her podcast, that at every level of the process had some kind of AI integration to help her manage and navigate the task, so that she could make it a really streamlined process
Mhm.
and have it done within an hour a week, rather than it being something that she needed to block out a full day a week for. And that were things like, even just the researching, writing the
Mhm.
scripts, and getting the guests that would help her to do that, writing a pitch to the guests that she
Mhm.
wanted, everything that you can think of, all the way down to editing and creating, your reel for social media.
Mhm.
All of that was done through AI, and that way she didn't have to do it all herself, but she was also able to easily give it to people on her team to do.
So that's enabled her to do so much more.
Mhm.
Do you think she's used that just to increase her, the amount of reach she has, the amount of work, or do you think that she also managed to get a bit better work-life balance as a result of using AI?
Definitely a better work-life balance, yeah,
Mhm.
and I think that's extremely important, more important than anything else really,
Mhm.
is having that work-life balance, but also she can achieve her goals more quickly because she's got more time on her hands.
Do you think there's a danger that some people will just go completely nuts and go after doing more and more work, regardless of how much it improves the potential work-life balance? They will just do the same amount of hours. Will managers apply that to their staff and say, "Hey, now you've got AI, you're going to do extra in the same amount of time"?
Yeah, this is a discussion that needs to be had, I think,
Mhm.
because productivity is has the potential to increase hugely, but do we want that, or do we want the work-life balance to improve? And, myself, if I was an employer of a team, I would want them to have a better work-life balance,
Mhm.
because then they're happier when they come to work. But that's quite a cultural shift, isn't it? To go from we must be productive to we must have a good balance so that we can be happy humans. And yeah, I think that's an even bigger discussion.
Yeah, it's a huge discussion. I mean, I look at the parallels of the right to switch off
Mm,
legislation that you see in Europe, and I believe that there's something
yes.
similar that's just been mooted by some of the banking unions in Australia.
Oh,
But
good to know. Mm,
listening to people I know over in Germany, and
mhm.
France, they say, well, yeah, we might have those rules, but nobody listens to them.
Ah, right. Yeah, they need to be implemented. It's all very
And it's
nice and well to have that piece of paper, but without it being implemented.
is a problem. So do you
Mm.
think that AI needs some level of legislation in place, or is it just it moves so quickly that the politicians can never possibly keep up?
I think both of those things. Yes, it needs legislation in place, but
Mhm,
politicians will have to use AI to be quick enough. So hopefully they're starting to implement it. It's like, so I was in the education department, the same
mhm,
with curriculum. Curriculum is not changing fast enough for the pace that the world is changing. And so every industry needs to integrate AI in order
mhm.
to keep up with that. And it's going to be, I think that's going to be a big challenge.
No, I tend to agree with you. I definitely agree there.
Mm.
So going forward, who do you see as the big winners and losers potentially with AI are?
I think the big winners are anyone, literally anyone, who starts to get on board. I think this is one of those moments in time, like when the internet was born, that
Mhm,
almost anyone can kind of jump on board and make the most of this and totally shift the way that, perhaps their life could go, or perhaps
mhm.
the world could go even. And that's why I want to get this out to as many people as possible. So those are the winners. And I mean, the losers, I mean, I hate that word, the losers, but the losers are the
Mhm.
people that just that don't get on board and start embracing it. The people that are going to blame and make excuses and, come at it from a place of fear, like, oh, it's going to be like the Terminator movie.
Yeah.
And I think those are the people that are going to end up missing out, unfortunately. And those are also the people we need to kind of like convince to look at it from a different perspective, because the more people that are using this in a really positive way, the better.
It's amazing how many times when I do these interviews, the Terminator movies do come up.
Yeah, of course.
Wonderful films that I enjoy a lot, but they've not done a lot for AI in the
Mm,
public's consciousness.
yeah. Yes.
Okay, so if there's a company out there that you're seeing that you think is doing AI right, can
Mhm.
you think of any that are doing some good stuff?
Oh, there's so many, I mean, I think about all of the software companies that I use in
Mhm.
my business, and most of them have got an AI team now.
Yeah.
So, like Calendly,
Mhm.
Motion and Notion, two separate Motion and Notion, as I always get those
Two
two
different
mixed up.
companies, yeah.
Yes, because they both help with organizing your life. What I'm loving right now is video.ai. So
Mhm.
vidyo.ai, which they are constantly updating. Predis.ai, combining Canva with ChatGPT and Hootsuite, all for one like instant place to go for all of your social media. I think they're
Mhm.
doing brilliant things, and I've seen them just in the last 3 months really start to improve what they're offering, and just constantly improving. Kajabi's also got an incredible team. Kartra, so many. Like, if there's any tech companies out there that aren't putting AI into their back end for their users, then I mean, they're not really a tech company anymore, are they?
Well, no, and it's not like the old days back in the dot com boom where people just simply put dot com at the end of their business name
Mm,
and expect money to come in. No, this really is a
yeah,
case of you have to grab it and run with it because if you don't, there could be a few issues in your future.
absolutely, yes. Yeah, it's changing the way we use the internet. So it's important to get on board. And look, I should say my company for sure, Unstoppable Enterprises. We're using AI for really good reasons.
Of course. So, a question I always like to ask my guests:
Mm,
you've been on this AI journey for a little while.
yeah.
What's that one piece of advice you wish you'd had when you were first starting out with AI that you'd like to pass on to everybody listening today?
Apart from the whole message about not being afraid of it, I would say start documenting what you find. Because what I've found is because there's so much, there's such a plethora, you get to a point where you think, have I seen that before? Have I used that before?
Mm-hmm.
What was it like? And then by the time you circle back to that piece of AI again, it's different. And you can't necessarily see how it's different because you didn't record it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even starting a spreadsheet or just a notebook where you note down what you've used, what you used it for, what it was good for, what it wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can come back to it, or it just helps you to navigate what it is you're even looking for in AI.
Makes complete sense.
Mm.
So, where can people find you? And do you have any big projects or new things to announce that you'd like the listeners to go to?
So you can find me, the best place is my social poison of choice, which is Instagram. And I'm at @the_real_MG, and that's spelled EMGEE. Lots of people just put the letters MG. That's not going to work. I'm not the car.
Yep.
I also have the Biz Revolution. So that's Revolution, like rebels, because we're rebels
Mhm.
in the Biz Revolution, which is the movement that I'm starting using the AI in the background for that membership site. So you'll be able to find that on Instagram as well at the Biz Revolution. You can also find out more information about what I do on my website, www.therealmg.com.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for the conversation today. It's really great to see somebody embracing AI, moving forward, and also the way that supporting the community. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time.
Well, that's a wrap on another awesome guest episode for the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show. Just before you go, if you like this episode, we would be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at AIadvantage.show right now. Until next time, I'm Richard Wray, and if you're an entrepreneur, get the AI advantage today.